Distinguished Educator, Google Certified Teacher, and Chicago Public Schools 2012 Tech Innovator of the Year, Jennie has been working to redefine education through effective technology use. She explores how to leverage one-to-one devices, such as Chromebooks and iPads, to increase student metacognition, self-efficiency, and creativity. Please join me in welcoming Jennie Magiera.
As he said, my name is Jennie Magiera, and I'm coming to you all the way from Chicago. And I was saying to John as I came in, I was driving and I was like, oh my God, they have trees out here. And then I was like, oh, and they have pills. And then I kept going, I was like, and they have a Hackney's. So I'm so excited. I'm probably going to get a burger later. Thank you for having me. As we talk today, we don't have a ton of time, but I'm happy to stick around afterwards. I'm going to probably go through some slides kind of quick. But if there's anything that you're like, whoa, slow your roll, lady, this is kind of confusing, please go to this website. So if you have a phone, an iPhone, an Android phone, an iPad, an iPod Touch, a laptop, go to todaysmeet.com/Orland Park. And what it is, for those of you who've never done a Today's Meet before, it's like a chat room. So what you do is you just throw your name up there. I like to put my Twitter handle in there too because I like it when people follow me on Twitter. But it's also nice if you put your email address or something else because that way if somebody sees something that you say that resonates with them, they know how to get in contact with you rather than just like yelling out like, Joe, who's Joe? I agree with what you said. Then you click join and then you have a space to talk. So you can go ahead and say what you want to say, and then it'll be in a chat stream. At the bottom, real down at small, you can see transcript. You can print out that whole chat after today. So if people have links they want to throw up there, questions, comments, complaints, you can put it all up there. We'll all see it, and we can be one big, happy auditorium family. So please go ahead and join todaysmeet.com/Orland Park, and feel free to continue chatting behind or in front of my back during the entire keynote. This is sanctioned note passing, my friends, so please pass some notes. So with that said, one more time, there's the URL, but I want to start off with this picture. Does anyone know who this is? It's a famous person. Just yell it out. John Connolly, no. It's Elton John. Who got it? Someone got it? All right, let's try another one. Who's this? Oh, you guys are so good. All right, fine, Thomas Edison. All right, how about this guy? It's hard to see. I made it real grainy, so you can't tell. Anyone want to guess? Peter Jennings. Does anyone know what all three of them have in common? They're boys. Yes. Anyone else know? They all dropped out of high school. So, why am I like, hey, look at all these famous people who dropped out of high school teachers, they don't need you, bye! So that's not the point. So, Elton John dropped out at 16, Thomas Edison dropped out after only 3 months of formal education. He was sick as a young child, went to school, and then dropped out, and then Peter Jennings dropped out when he was 15. And the reason they dropped out was because Elton John went to a music school and he didn't like the classical content. It didn't resonate with him. Thomas Edison was called actually retarded and addled by his teachers, and they said they couldn't teach him because he was always walking around and saying things, and they didn't understand what was going on with him, so they just were like, no thanks. And Peter Jennings just said, I was so very bored, and actually he also said he was very focused on girls. So I'm not telling this to you to say like, look, you don't have to go to high school, but think about how successful these guys are. He became a rock star, an inventor, and a journalist. But let's imagine a world. They did that without high school. What if they had a really amazing high school experience? What if we changed that story, and instead of that, Elton John got differentiated content that really spoke to him. He got to explore rock music. What if Thomas Edison had scaffolded support that challenged and differentiated for him? And what if Peter Jennings was challenged that he could do some problem-based learning or hands-on stuff and talk to some ladies at lunch? What would the world be like now? How much more amazing would these gentlemen be? You talk about all these people who dropped out of school, and they're like, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of wanted to go to school every day. They were challenged by their peers. How many more Elton Johns, Thomas Edisons, Peter Jennings would we have in the world today if they had that kind of scaffolded, differentiated support from people like you? What could be? What would the world look like today? These people are 1%, probably I say less than 1% of all of the high school dropouts in the world. Very few high school dropouts grow up to become rock stars, inventors, and journalists. Most of them are just a sad story, and they're somebody that we lost. And we don't want that for our kids. So what can be? So today I want to talk to you about what should be and how it can happen today. This isn't something that's like, oh, come on guys, let's do it. Not really, let's all go home. This is something that you can start in your classrooms tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow because it's Saturday, but Monday. So how are we going to change our classrooms to become more engaging places, more differentiated places, places that are more responsive to our kids? And, you know, I know that at District 230 you're already a really high-performing rock star school district, and I'm not, you know, maybe college or high school dropouts aren't your first thing, but even as we're trying to get our kids to be college ready, how can we get them to be competitively college ready? You know, I went to a pretty decent college, and I was having dinner with my uncle, who was an alumni of the same school last night, and his son is about to apply to college. And he was saying to me that 80% of the kids who apply to that school have like top SAT scores, top ACT scores, you know, best GPAs in their class, super well-rounded, president of their class, and they can't get in. It's so hard to get into the top tier schools these days, so we need to make sure our kids have all the tools they need to be successful in life. I definitely couldn't get into my college today if I reapplied. So thinking about where are the university's mindset at? A recent poll came out that took, I don't know if any of you saw it, but it polled high school students and it said, do you think your graduates are ready for college? And I think 80% of them were like, yeah, woo! And then it polled the college professors that said, do you think that your freshmen in college were ready for college? And they were like, nope, not at all. And the percentage, I'm not going to make it up, but it was much lower. It was significantly lower than what the high school teachers were thinking. And it wasn't about intelligence and smarts. It was about problem solving and use of digital tools. 7 of the 8 Ivy League universities and 72 of the top 100 US universities have gone Google. And I don't tell you this because I'm like, everyone should use Google. Yay! Here, Google, give me some money. I just plugged it. That's not the point. The point is that they're thinking differently about the way that they're delivering curriculum and engaging kids with one another to create and collaborate. It's not about being Google. It's about the platform and the thought process that they're using to educate tomorrow's future. In a 2012 December Forbes article, it talked about the top skills to get hired today. The first 4, I think that you could probably see, you would guess critical thinking, problem solving, decision making. Number 5 is computers and electronics, which isn't building a circuit board, it's understanding how to utilize them in your everyday job. You think about so many jobs that before might not use technology, but now do. Construction. I have some friends who work for WEO Neo, built skyscrapers downtown on the job with a construction hat. You know what they have in their hands? An iPad. They're looking at blueprints every day. They have to know how to interact with the technology. And even though number 5 is the only one that says computer and electronics, all 5 of these top 5 skills are heavily supported and encouraged at the learning stage through technology. So today I want to talk to you about how we can get all those skills for our kids. And I'm not talking just about slapping a Promethean or smartboard on the wall. Because just putting technology in the classroom doesn't mean that the kids are practicing those skills. So look at this classroom. Look at what they're doing. That's $4,000 of technology in a classroom. And do you see any of those students touching a lick of technology? I don't even see a cell phone or a calculator. That's exactly what I did when I was in school. I'm sure most of you paper and pencil. So it's not just about putting technology in the classroom because it's sexy or cool or for technology's sake. It's about putting technology in the classroom to increase skills, opportunity, scaffolded support, and differentiation so that we can increase student growth. So here's another classroom. This is from actually one of my schools where you can see that the kids are really engaged in the technology and they're doing some really critical thinking stuff. So today I want to share with you what that looks like. And I want to give you a yes and Some of you might be thinking like, okay, but I don't have one-to-one iPads or communion board, okay, so whatever. You don't need to have all these devices. You don't need to have $20,000 of technology in your classroom to make a difference. You can have one tool. And even if you don't have one iPad, how many of you have a smartphone? How many of you have a computer somewhere in your life somewhere? Okay, if your hand's not raised, John Connolly is your director of technology right there. You don't have any computer in your entire life, I'll give out his phone number at the end of the session. And I also know that you guys are going Google. No? Okay, thank you. Where are the people in the black shirts? You should all be clapping. So that's another free tool that you're all going to have access to change not only your kids' lives, but make your life easier also. Because technology is, again, not just about bells and whistles. It's about streamlining your own process to make your lives a little bit nicer. To help us frame this and focus this, we need a model or a framework. How many of you have heard of the SAMR model before? Keep you? All right, awesome. For those of you who haven't, it's a 4-tier continuum of technology integration. If you haven't heard of it before, think of it like the Bloom's taxonomy of technology used in the classroom. So at the lowest level are the enhancement levels, substitution and augmentation. Substitution is where you're taking a piece of technology and bringing it into the classroom, and it's a straight swap for what you were doing before. So you're like, hey, do you like that history, that world history textbook? It's pretty good, right? Bam, now it's on an iPad. Anyway? No? Okay. It's just a PDF of the textbook. It's not that exciting. Maybe at the augmentation level, it's a PDF on a textbook that reads to you. Okay, we're adding something, getting there, but it's still just a textbook. So is it really worth the money? Well, that's debatable. At the transformative level, however, you're taking that textbook and you're modifying it somehow. You're saying, okay, instead of a textbook, there's interactive video in it. I can actually take some of the text and comment on it. But at the highest level, redefinition, which is the meat and potatoes, the real spaghetti, meatballs, peanut butter and jelly of the whole SAMR model, I'm a little hungry, sorry, is where you're actually creating opportunities for kids that are otherwise impossible without the technology at hand. So again, instead of just a textbook with video and some words, imagine it's an entire website where it has got some dynamic content about, Illinois history or world history or current events. But embedded in it are chat room discussions where kids can discuss the content. They can have an online Socratic seminar. They can do a DBQ online and really discuss some primary sources. They can add their own information and create their own presentations and add and augment the content that's already there. They're actually doing some real problem-based learning and engaging with the content. That's redefinition. So today I'm going to talk to you and give you some quick examples of how to redefine 3 areas of your teaching life: collaboration, differentiation, and your curricula and assessment. How many of you have heard of Schoology? Yay, you get a prize. So Schoology is an amazing learning management system. And for those of you who don't know what a learning management system is, it's sort of like, have you ever heard of Blackboard or Moodle? Some of you? It's like that, only better. And I'm saying that, again, not because I'm trying to get, royalties from Schoology, but because as we've been using it as a district, we've been finding that there's so many cool things that make your lives as teachers happier. It's free. It's available on any platform, from a cell phone to an iPad, to an Android device, to a laptop, to a computer. And what it can do is you can assign assignments to kids, you can create assessments, and here's the best part. How many of you have over 100 students that you see a day? Last year, that was me. And how many of you are constantly having to grade their exit tickets, their formative assessments, their quizzes, and you're literally trucking home their notebooks and their papers, and then you're your whole Sunday is papers everywhere. Well, imagine a world where all of that is graded for you, and the kids get immediate feedback, and the tests are already there, the quizzes, and it's magical, and you get free booze at the end of every day. Yeah, you're listening. Okay, well, not the last part. So Schoology does not do that, but the other stuff, yes. So you can create watch this video and tell me what it makes you think. Look at this picture of the Rodney King riots and tell me what do you notice about the people in the photo. Watch this mathematical proof and tell me where someone made an error. Listen to this podcast of Walt Disney talking about the birth of his innovation and tell me what does that make you think and how does it inspire you. So again, you're not just doing a paper and pencil assessment, you're modifying it and adding to it and making it something where kids can take many different modalities and learning modes. But the coolest thing is that you get all this data. And I don't know if all of you are math teachers and data geeks like me, but I love me some good data. And immediately, as soon as the kid hits submit, you can see what they got, the number of seconds it took them on each question, and if you're super geeky, you get a standard deviation for your exit ticket. So every day it does this for you. It aggregates, it gives you an item analysis, so you can monitor your student growth in real time for free. So one example of something that you can use. Now again, you might be a teacher who doesn't have lots of devices in your classroom. I have 25 CPS schools that most of them can't afford this, so they're doing it in small pods, they're taking laptop cards, they're having kids use cell phones if you have a BYO bring your own device policy. They're having the teacher just put a couple and there's a station where they check in almost like a voting booth every day. Lots of different ways to rethink the structure of your classroom to use tools like this. Here's an example of a student going through her exit ticket, and she's looking at her grades, and she's telling me how she's able to check her grades every day and how it's really helpful, because before she had to wait till report card pickup or progress reports to find out, or she had to log into some really unfriendly portal. But this way she can see as soon as she turns in an assessment or an exit ticket or assignment how that's affecting her grade and how she's doing. Another really cool thing that you can check out is clickers. It's clickers with a P. There's a little YouTube video that I'm going to show you, but I'm going to warn you that if you watch it in school, there's some ads that come at the end that are less than school friendly, so I cut those out for you. But what it does is you print out a sheet for each kid, and they hold it this way it's A, and they hold it this way it's B, and this way C, and this way C, and it automatically, you just put your cell phone at the front of the room or your iPad or your webcam, and you can see it calculates who got what answer because it just takes a picture of the room and it sees what they're doing, almost like a QR code or a barcode scanner. And then it gives you an item analysis. So again, I don't have one-to-one iPads, I don't have Chromebooks, but I have a cell phone, I have a computer, or I have one iPad. I just put that in front of the room, I say, what do you guys think the answer is? They all hold it up. You can see each little paper has its own ID, so that the camera reads to that kid. So you don't just know 20 kids picked A, you know Allison Johnson picked A. And it aggregates that data over time. And do you know how much that costs? Free! So try that out too. There's so much stuff on the internet like this that's really user-friendly if you're just willing to take a risk. What's really cool about all of these things is the real-time data. As we're tracking our kids, if you have your 100+ students that you see a day, you want to know how they're doing at any given time so that you can support their learning. Real-time data allows us to do that. When I was in the classroom last year, it was, I teach a lesson, I do my exit ticket or formative assessment, then I'd go home and I'd be like, oh, I really want to grade this, but maybe I should watch Game of Thrones. Okay, I'll watch Game of Thrones. And then like Sunday night, I'm scrambling to do all the exit tickets, and then Monday I come to school and I'm like, here's what you didn't know. And the kids are like, what were we learning on Friday? They're out of that moment of cognitive dissonance. They have no idea what I'm talking about. This real-time data allows you to real-time differentiate. So in that moment of the kid being like, oh, I hate algebra, it's so confusing. Or like, world history is so boring, I don't get it. You can catch them and be like, but here's why you don't get it, and allow them to get some support before they walk out of your classroom. So you're restructuring your day. So let's talk about redefining that differentiation. You have all this information about your kids. You have a 45-minute block. And you know maybe at minute 30 that X kids don't get it, these kids have X misconception, and these kids are ready to rock and roll. What do you do about it? You don't have time to run to the teacher's lounge and make photocopies or whatever. How are you going to help them? So in this video, this is my classroom from 2 years ago. This is a 5th grade class looking at factors and factorization. And you can see one of the kids is working through the lesson again. That's me talking to them, being like, in my talk radio voice, do you like factors? I like factors. Let's take a look. And in the next last one, that kid was a little bit more of a kinesthetic child, so we're using counters and making factor rainbows. So I'm meeting kids at their modality. I'm meeting kids based on their understanding and level and where they need to be. And a lot of people want to call that flipping the classroom, but we like to call it cloning the teacher. Because now, much to my kids' horror, there were 20 Miss Magieras in the classroom because I was pushing out all these little 3 to 5 minute differentiated videos that I created and allowing them to watch at their own level. So each kid got a differentiated, individualized playlist based on that exit ticket. Now you might be saying, when did you have time to make all those videos? I made little 3 to 5 minute videos after school once a week. It maybe took an hour to make, 10 or 11. And then at the end of that, I had 10 videos. And the next week I made another 10. So I took an hour a week and I made them. Now I have over 100 mini lesson videos after that first year that I was using technology. And guess what? The second year, I just used them again. And the third year, I used them again. And then I told all my colleagues, and I was like, hey guys, this is really cool, you should try it. And they're like, I don't know, Magiera, you're kind of wackadoo. I was like, please. So then they started to do it, and now we had hundreds and hundreds of mini lessons that we were able to share. Someone was saying to me like, hey Magiera, I know you have a factors lesson, can you give it to me? I'd be like, there you go. I'd be like, hey, I need a lesson on, binomials. Can you send it to me? Bam, now I got it. And we're all crowdsourcing and sharing it. The really nice thing about this too is, again, we didn't have to have a one-to-one classroom for this, as in devices for all of our kids. I have a teacher who all she has is a projector in her room. That's it. And that was a big push. Before that, it was an overhead projector with a vis-a-vis monitor. So she has a projector. What she did was she showed one video in the front of the room and pulled a group of kids to the side. So now, maybe there were 20 of her, but there were 2, and 2 is better than 1, as we know from the AT&T commercial. And if you want some of this content for free, and you're like, okay, yes, but I don't have time to do that. I have a life. It sounds like you don't. You watch Game of Thrones, obviously. So, if you don't want to be making all these videos, you can go to ck12.org and they made them for you, and you can get them for free. Or you can go to YouTube and look at the Mathademics website. It's academics, only Mathademics. And there's a bunch of videos up there that people like me uploaded. There's so many places to get videos like this that other people have created for free that you can use, or you can make your own. Lots of different pathways to try this out. So here's ck12.org. You can see they're all organized by content. And then once you go into it, not only does it give you content, it also gives you the modality. So you can see, based on your kid's modality, what kind of video or activity you want to download for free. So now let's talk about redefining collaboration. Again, here's my Schoology push. Schoology not only allows you to assess your kids in a really cool way, but it also allows you to have discussions. About a month ago, I saw on Twitter that there was a guy named, I think his name was Jennie Magiera. And he's a photographer that travels the world and takes really great pictures that I could never dream of taking. But he also, as he was traveling the world, realized that he was noticing kids had really different toys when he was photographing their parents or in their neighborhoods. So he started to do a photo story about kids and their favorite toys. So here's a little boy from Thailand, and you can see he's got his mopeds. Here's a little girl from Sweden, and she has her dollhouse. And then we have a little boy from Kenya, and he has his stuffed monkey. And we have this little girl from Algeria with her bike. And then my kids started having conversations about this. And they were like, why does he live in a house with dirt on the walls? Or why does she have all that stuff and this boy only has this stuff? So they're able to have these discussions, but this is on Schoology. You can say they started discussions, they can like each other's responses, they're responding to one another. And what's really powerful about it is I have all of this discussion recorded. Rather than just saying, let's have a Socratic seminar, I could videotape it or try to take notes. But I can't assess kids over time. But this way I can see the quality and quantity of every child's response. I can see Sincere is not only responding to what Trinity's saying, but is actually pushing for thinking and asking some more questions. So I can see how a child participates in a discussion, what roles they play, how their voice is progressing, and analyze how they are as a collaborator. In this video, you can see that we're Skyping with another classroom. What we were trying to do here, this is on the eve of the Chicago teacher strike. And we were realizing that a lot of our kids were thinking that we were going on strike because of that we didn't like them, and our whole attitude was, you have to pay us to teach you guys, pay us more to teach you. And we're like, that's not the point. So we decided to do a project-based learning activity about school equity and reform with our 3rd through 5th graders. And one of the things they identified as a piece of equity was resources in the building. So you can see we QR coded some of the resources that the kids thought were important, and they played Price is Right. They were like, I think that this Promethean board is $5 million, and they QR coded it, and they were like, oh, it's only $4,000, why don't you get more? And I was like, that's still a lot of money. And then they were like, I think Miss Magiera makes $1,000 a year, and then they QR coded me, and they were like, what, you're rich! And I was like, no, I'm not. So we Skyped with this other classroom to talk to them about the resources they have. This was a class that was 3 miles north in Chicago. My school's on the south side, 99% African American, 99% free and reduced lunch. This school much more diverse, very low free reduced lunch population. So they Skype with this class, and the first thing my kids say when they see them, they were supposed to answer the essential question, what's a valued resource in your classroom? Instead, my class goes, oh, they have white people in their school. And the other teacher and I are like, So then we're like, okay, learning opportunity. So we're like, why did you say that? And my kids are like, because there's a white girl right there. Obviously, they have white kids in their school. Where do they come from and how do we get them? I said, white people come from Orland Park. So I thought we were going to have this really this is a resource and it costs this much dollars. Multiplied by this rate equals this much for a budget. But instead it turned into this conversation about socioeconomic segregation and long-term policies about school zones and how come all my neighbors are black and all their neighbors aren't, and how come we don't have any Chinese people in Miss Magiera, are you Chinese? And all these different questions that I never expected a 3rd grade class to engage in. And they started getting on Google and looking at maps of socioeconomic neighborhoods and looking at median income and crime rate and really pushing the limits of where I thought that they could go. And they totally took over that lesson and went way farther and much more deeper than one might think. All because of one video. You can see in this video they're doing a Google Hangout with another classroom and they're talking about this at another level. They're discussing their thinking on down there. This is a 4th grade class on the north side, and these 2 are some of my classes. So they're joining in and chatting. And then Google Docs. So, we could talk all day about how much I love all of this, but I wanted to share with you an example of how my kids collaborate on Google Docs. I don't know where the sound is. You should hear it. Just kidding. There's the sounds. Let's close iTunes. is a website called Doc Story Builder, so you can create those videos on your own. It's really cool for kids to do. I've had them do different dialogues between historic people about current events, even about math problem solving. So it's Docs, D-O-C-S, Story Builder. But what's really nice about this, and that actually happens, I dramatized it a little bit, but I shared a Google Doc with the parents so that they could see their kids' work. And the kids were in school and they were working on it, and the parent joined on. She was like, "Oh, Jaheen, you're doing such a good job." And he was like, "Mom, oh my God." And that's when I learned to share parents only on comments only. But the point being is that's how collaboration looks. Those 3 kids that were in that example that I dramatized were in 3 different classrooms, one of which was at a completely different school. And they were working on the same project in real time. And so as you go Google, you're going to find that it opens so many doors to facilitate collaboration, real-time learning, and creative processes just like that. So the final thing I wanted to talk to you about was redefining curricula. And part of that is thinking about authentic learning. All right, boys and girls, here I am in the dairy section of Dominic's by my house, and I'm getting some stuff for dinner, and I need some sharp cheddar cheese. So I see here that I can get this Lucerne brand sharp cheddar cheese. It's 8 ounces, and for this package, I would be paying $2.99. So I was at the grocery store and I was like, oh, I want to do this real authentic math learning that I heard from this awesome guy named Meyer out in California, and I can do it too. So I went to the grocery store and I just took out my phone and I videotaped myself grocery shopping. And then I had my kids watch the video and they said, oh, well, obviously you're trying to find the cheaper cheese. And one of my students who's a little bit of a, let's just call him different or rebel, and he didn't really like the math class in terms of sitting in his chair or doing work or not hitting other kids. And so at the end, he turns in his exit ticket through Schoology and he says, the answer is $16. And I wanted them to find the rate. That's what so I thought they were going to come out with like 35 cents per ounce. And I was like, $16. And I was like, clearly Eddie's not paying attention again, so. But then I had them screencast or write on the iPad what their thinking was to hear their metacognition. And I watched Eddie's video and I realized that maybe I wasn't so right.
Continue. $10. That was $10, and it was 32 pounds, 32 ounces of shredded cheese. Then she went and found one bag, there's a little bag of cheese for 8 ounces for $3. And this was $10. So I did 32 divided by 8. So she tried to find which one she would have more cheese to save less on. So I did 32 divided by 4, and it was 8. So 4 is my answer, because I was guessing on that one, because I remember 8 times 5 is 40. So then I noticed that, so I did 4 times each 8 ounces. So both of these equal 32 ounces. All of this, 32 ounces. And one of these, 32 ounces. So then I did 4 times 3. I mean 4 times 4. And it was 4 times 4, and it was 16. Yeah.
Alright, so, first of all, clearly I was completely wrong. Eddie knew exactly what he was doing. He did make a mistake, but he not only knew exactly what he was doing, but he skirted the type of math that I thought he was going to do. I wanted him to find unit rates, but instead he used proportions. And not only that, but he came up with this all on his own. We hadn't really talked about common denominators or proportions yet. He noticed that this bag was 32 ounces. This bag was out of 8 ounces. He needed to set it so it was out of a total of 32, so he was comparing the same quantity, and then to find the price. He figured that all out on his own, just by problem solving. Then I knew he was a visual learner. He drew pictures. Next, he's an algebraic thinker. He wanted to find out 32 ounces divided by 8, but he put the quotient right here, the 4, in the middle. So he was thinking about it in terms of multiplication. Next, I found out that he was an estimator. He was the only kid of 35 kids in my homeroom to do $3. Did you guys see what the price of the cheese was? It was $2.99. All the other kids were like, oh, I have to multiply a hundredths place and a tenths place. And Eddie was like, give a penny, take a penny. It's $3. So he estimated. He also estimated here, because he didn't know what 32 divided by 8 was, but he did know that 8 times 5 was 40. And he knew that was too big, so he went down to 4. I learned all this about Eddie in a minute and 11 seconds. What was even more powerful than that in terms of me really getting to hear his thinking was then I had him listen to it. So I put him on, I'm like, hey, Eddie, come here. He's like, oh, what do I do now? I'm like, no, just come here. He's like, okay. I was like, great job with your screencast. I just want you to listen again. He's like, okay. So he's listening to it. He's listening to himself. And he's like, I did a pretty good job, because he did. So he's like, yep, see, 32 ounces is what I said. That's what I'm talking about. But then he's like watching it, and he gets to this part where he is doing $3 times the 4 bags. And then he forgot to label his numbers, which math teachers is frustrating, right? So because he didn't label his numbers, he crossed it out and wrote 4, and he goes, ah! Like he literally just screamed. I was like, what's wrong? He's like, I didn't label my numbers. Oh, and so what happened? He's like, I put the wrong number. Oh, okay, so what does that mean? It should have been 12. And that wasn't even what you were asking me. And I was like, oh, really? So that whole conversation where I was going to be like, Eddie, remember to label your numbers and know what the question is asking you. Instead, he came to all those conclusions organically on his own by hearing his own thinking, which is way more powerful than me nagging him about it. And so we were really finding that kids hearing their own thinking and hearing their own work was way more powerful. And so we started having kids do that whenever they had trouble understanding why they didn't understand something, metacognition. If you want to see more of these types of lessons and you don't feel like bringing your phone to the grocery store and videotaping your errands like a crazy person, you can go to Mathalicious and get them for free. So Mathalicious has a bunch of them that are samples. And you can also go to Dan Meyer's website, who is my mathematics hero, blog.mrmeyer.com. And he has a bunch of these for free. There's Mr. Meyer. He's amazing. He does TED Talks. When he does TED Talks, though, he looks a little bit more like that. But on his website, he has all of his curriculum for free that you can pull down. And you can find it on his website by just clicking on My Curricula on the side. So the results of all of this is about empowering our kids, right? We want to make sure that we have student growth, but we also want to have academic growth. We want them to have the power to feel like they can achieve on their own. And here's one of my students talking about that.
Hi, my name is Caleb, and I go to NTA. And the thing I like about iPads is when I come to school, I like to come to school because I had iPads when I was in 3rd grade. I used to do anything so I won't come to school, like try to get a fever, so I won't have to and when I came to 4th grade, I was kind of nervous because I didn't know how to use no iPad. Miss Magiera showed me how to use the iPad, and also the iPad made me feel powerful because I was talking to this grown up, and I told this grown up what he should do to the iPad, to the app to make it better, and that's how iPads changed my life.
So I think that you're going to have so many stories like that, whether it's with iPads or Google or just thinking differently about the way you approach student growth in your classroom. I hope you were inspired today. If not now, hopefully sometime during the day. Thank you so much.